Okay, hi there, traders, and welcome to Trade the Structure and the morning jumpstart. So we're just going to go through all the action from overnight and leading into the Asian market session. We'll take a look at what happened and just some key levels that we're going to keep an eye on for any trade setups or any price action setups that we're looking for. So we'll start off with ASX 200 as usual. So we've got this is the actual SPY. So we've got on the 15-minute chart here. You can see the action was sort of capped through that level there. It's about 71.23. It's also found some buyers at around 70.74. So that, sort of range bound on the open, I would expect. Being a Friday, we're probably going to be a bit nervous to add some risk to the table considering the weekend's on its way, and we never know what's going to happen over the weekend. I mean, the markets have been so choppy lately. It's been a tough gig if you're going to hold for longer term or putting risk into the market longer term. I think for now it's sort of prudent just to stay safe in the moment. So I'm looking for 71.23 now. If that holds as a lower high, we could get it. I'll be looking for some sort of bounce potentially, just to drag in some buys and then potentially squeeze them back out for a move down through 70, 74, and potentially down to that 52 area, even lower. If that starts to hold up, there's no reason why we can't just jam straight back up again. Okay, just basically as the SPY does, straight up, and we could be heading towards 70, 72. So really, we just got to wait and see what happens on the open, see which way the market wants to be pushed. Now we get on to, this is just a 5-minute chart, so don't worry about that. And like I said, it is messy. So you're just seeing these sort of flushes through, It's really hard to find a key level that stands out. The price action is not very clear. It's not very, clean. You could say you can just see these, maybe a level up here, then it flushes through, falls back. Next time it sort of flushes through, bounces over, bounces through those highs, fails off those highs. So it's a matter of being safe and prudent, just waiting for your setups to come to you. We've got the Hong Kong, so we go to the Asian markets. I forgot what I'm doing there. You can see they've been less wanting to go higher, I guess you could say. So the market's been pressing lower. You've got a level here at 26.55, which is holding the action down at the moment. That really sold off. That was into the start of the US session, but US actually bounced back off their lows, whereas you can see the Hang Seng didn't. It was probably late in the session, so the Hang Seng closed about 6 a.m., so 2 hours earlier than US closes. And it really didn't do too much after that because you're talking about CFD pricing, so it's the futures that we're looking at. Now that, like I said, pressed down and it's just held those losses into the close. And so what I'll be looking for on the open is really, I want to see a flush, see if we can flush into that low. Now that is a major low from previously. You can see it was way back here, probably about the 9th, a couple of days ago. So those lows there may be going to be retested. Otherwise, we've got these highs up here at 26.55. So for now, it's in no man's land. So I would be betting on, if it wants to go down, that we get some sort of pop into the open, just dragging some buys, and then we're flush. Okay, flush lower into the close. Now, Nikkei, much the same. It's kind of weak yesterday. We got some sellers that capped the market, capped any sort of rally into 25,506. And that was, like I said, in the US session as well. So the start of the US session come down. It actually did try to pop, but got sold off into the close. So maybe we're looking to find a bit of a base up off that 25,175 area. We may flush into that, retest, and then start to hold some higher lows. But for now, it's still, there's weakness lingering around. And being the weekend, it's going to be a tougher one to really add too much risk to the market. You would expect sort of these highs to be capping the action. Even 25,575. Dow over the US, so into the close, you can see that market, it pressed down. I think the open was around here, 1230, then the 130 mark spiked up and then straight back down again. So remember, they had inflationary numbers out at 1230. So the inflationary numbers come out as expected, but they were quite strong, stronger than previously. So whatever the Fed is saying, whatever they're going to do is going to be, has to be trying to cap this inflationary problem, okay? No doubt about it. They have to go and do something. They have to start raising rates. There's going to be some rate rising cycle, which may be why the market's choppy, because you're looking at two things. You're looking at, there's going to be bulls and bears fighting it out at the moment. The bulls are going to say the economy is growing. That's fine. It is growing. But if it's not factored in, I'd like to be a monkey's uncle. Okay, I think it's well and truly factored in because previously, when the market, that rate cut cycle, and we've been such low rates, everyone's used cheap debt to grow. Okay, so a lot of that growth has already been well and truly factored in my opinion. So to say that, yeah, it's growing, we should be rallying, no, I don't think that's the case. I think it's more that, you got tech, which has been supporting the market. They don't like raising, they don't like higher cost of debt, and that has been factored in well and truly. It's had a boom. Okay, there was nowhere else to put your money. Um, you can't put it in big funds, couldn't put it in bonds. There's really nowhere else to put your money but into US shares, to equity markets, and that's why it's had that that really big bull market the last year or so, or 2 years. So since the pandemic sell-off, it's just bounced back and gone into new highs. So really, I would expect any sort of inflationary figure to start to cap the market, but I think it's still a bit of uncertainty around there at the moment, whether it's going to, like I said, a growing economy is going to support this market, which I don't think so. I think it's sort of overcooked, or whether it's going to be, we're not going to see the gains we saw in the past at the very least. So this for the Dow, it'd be interesting to see whether you can actually hold that 33,177. I think the way we just flushed it into the close, it'd be interesting to see whether we come back down below, find a lower high, and we sell back down, or whether we start to grind up and retest into this 33,420 area. Now, US Nasdaq, same sort of area. It's capped at 13,622, so we've got a minor level there, major level more at 13,760. So do we, like the Dow, do we sort of fall away off that level 13,622 and start to trade into 410 or even below, being into the weekend, or do we start to grind up and start to test back into that 13,760 highs? Now, it had a really good night a couple of nights ago in the US. So it could be a bit of easing of that, a bit of profit taking from that run up. Okay, we saw this run up here, could be a bit of profit taking. So I'll be interested to see how it actually goes. I think we've probably capped at that 622 area for now. You can see the momentum slowing, easing off that area. So we might get a bit of a grind back down to that 13,410 area. Germany, the DAX. So they were off about 400 points last night after, which is probably fair play after rallying about 1,000 points the previous night. So it was just really that 1,000-point rally. We were talking about this yesterday. You'd expect some sort of profit taking there. Now, have we seen that? Maybe, maybe not. 13,325 is the area. I think it's pushed into that area. Now, if it starts to, at the moment, you can see we've got two things. We've got sort of this level. So, a breakdown here means a lower high. It means probably a push back down below 13,325, or at least a test into that level. Or if we start to break up and start to take out this little minor level, you can see at 13,578, then we're going to probably test back into 13,775. So at the moment, we're just going to wait and see how it plays out. UK. Now they've obviously retreated as well, retreated off that 72.50 area, that zone in there, pushed into that zone after that breakout, and then we started to drift back down. So we've retested back into that 71.10 area. Now, whether that can hold, we can hold up this little minor double bottom and start to work our way back up into 72.50, or whether this kind of, that little level in there, which I've got there, that little level at 71.50 is going to hold the action down, and we're going to start to grind being a weekend. So I think there's probably not really a lot of profit taken in the US just yet, and that's what maybe the European markets are anticipating. Now, this could easily, just looking at that, could easily flush down, around maybe looking at this sort of area in here, around 70-30, 70-29, 70-30. It could easily flush down there and still hold that sort of that trend back up again. Okay, just need to squeeze out some more traders. Currencies. So the US dollar rallied last night, which you would expect off that inflationary number. So inflation numbers are still good, still should be pressuring the US dollar up. All right. Now the Aussie is still finding some love. Pushed its way up. We could see from the open was roughly here. So it sort of popped lower, testing the 72.80 just to drag in some sellers and then turn around and squeeze them straight back at it again. So we've retested that zone. We worked our way up. So it's just whether that move up there is done, which would mean if you just extend that out, we'll just put that there. Extension, pullback, extension. Maybe we're going to just last ditched effort. We're going to push up into that 73, 78, even flush that level. It's not really a key level at all. We're sort of looking for it to find that could be a place where we find some selling. So I'm sort of looking for that little pop in the 73, 78, or that zone there coming into the European session. Now we've got the euro. Euro was sold off obviously as US dollar rallied. So that's the move at 12.30. That's about right. Yeah, little pop. Actually, I think the ECB. So ECB held rates steady. I think that was the ECB move, if I'm not wrong. It was about that time. It's just before the US numbers. Yeah, 11.45. So you got this little pop. They held steady, and I think there might have been a lot of traders looking for the ECB to potentially raise rates. Okay, so but they didn't know. They were happy to hold it. No one really wants to raise rates at the moment, especially with what's going on, with the crisis over in Ukraine. None of the Feds want to hold rates because they know that you start to raise. Sorry, they don't want to raise rates. You start to raise rates, whether it's the ECB or in the US, that's going to cap the market. And considering there's a bit of fear around of what's happening with Ukraine, those two things working together could really exacerbate the move on the way down. All right, so they're very, very reluctant. They'd rather, let inflation get out of hand than raise rates. So, and that's what it's looking like it's doing. We're up at massive high inflation. I think 7 to 8% in the US at the moment. So they like I said, CPI will come out at 8%, 0.8. So it's kind of high in anyone's terms. So we got the euro, like I said, flushed at that level, trade up to 11.27 and then back down again. So I've got this level in here at 110.92, which I think is going to cap the action. That to me is more of just a flush than a new high. I expect that's the level there, more as a double top or retest fail, and we'll work our way back down. Now this is where we're holding some higher lows, so I would expect that we could start to grind back up again and just squeeze out some of these sellers before we get another move into the European session, potentially lower. So that's what I'd ideally be looking for, maybe a bit of a grind up and then start to get heavy and then back down again. Just depends, again, what the US dollar does. It doesn't seem like they want to hold euro at the moment. And if the US dollar keeps going higher, they'll be selling euro, buying US dollar, obviously, and then we'll see that market roll over. It's just whether it can hold up off that support zone. Basically where it is in here, which is somewhere around 109.80. So, all right, the pound. The pound, this is what we were talking about yesterday. We were talking about that breaking down, which it did. It did break down, gave you a little short trade on the downside there, bounced up off this level at 130.140 and retested that area at 131.93 before failing, and it failed later on in the US session. So that's really just playing around. That's your trade in the Asian market session. Ramped straight back up to the start of European market and then basically chopped around. So they were just holding it between these two zones up until the CPI number came out in the US session, and then it basically sold down after that once the US started to rally. So obviously the pound's thinking that US dollar's going to find some strength. Inflation still, is a serious problem, and the market should be heading south, and US dollar should be heading higher. All right. So for now, it's whether we hold this level 30.88. If we're going to hold that level, I'll be looking for a higher low off it. Okay, maybe something like this, and you see if we can get a bit of a squeeze. Otherwise, we might get a bit of a grind down, and then something like that, and continue its way down. Take out those stops. Okay, maybe flush the stops if it starts to retest. So I'm sort of expecting the flush. Whether it's going to be, I wouldn't expect straight off this level. I would expect more of a flush and bounce back and then hold a higher low, or we're going to flush, hold that level again at 38.8 and grind our way down. Okay, so it's still under pressure in my eyes. US yen didn't do too much. So I think the start of the Asian market session was around here. So it did pop higher, come straight back down again. So we're getting capped at that 116.19 area, 194 area. These highs through here. There's a little minor lower high starting to hold at 116.47. So if we start to break down through 116.08, I'll be looking for a move back down to a potential move back down to 115.79. But at the moment, we've still got these higher lows holding, which has held since the start of the European session. Holding those higher lows, that would be more buying into the US dollar and no real safe haven into the yen. Now, if the markets collapse tonight, we're going to get some safe haven into the yen, and which would outstrip, I reckon, any buying into the US dollar, and we're going to get this market heading south. So we'll see how it goes in the Asian session. I'm banking on it, probably maybe selling off, maybe a bit of a flush into the equities into the weekend, and see if this thing can head lower. All right, gold. Now gold, we were saying yesterday that it come off quite hard. It's found some buying into 1973. It was looking to keep up off that level, and that was early in the Asian market session, but held through Asian market trading, held up off this level 1981, held that retest at early in the US session, flushed into there, but still held it. At the moment, for me, it's an each way bet. I don't see that, okay, we're just going to head higher. This level here, 2003, is key for me. I think if we can push up through there, which is the previous level it's reacted off, it's traded flushed through there. So what it's done is actually flushed out some stops. Anyone that's selling below that level, flushed them out, and it's starting to build. To me, it looks like it's starting to build. At the moment, that price action is sideways, so it needs to push up, retest that level and hold before I'd be looking to buy it. Otherwise, we could get this kind of action, any sort of spike down, and anyone that sort of pops, holding any pop below that level and really see a move down. Back down, I would expect if we get this kind of price action, we're going to take it down and through 1973. But really, I'm biased up on gold. I think that setup could see some, especially if we get a bit of a sell-off into equity markets, we could see some safe haven buying back into gold. We've got crude here. Now oil, you can see it's failed off that 130 area, 129.50, failed off there, got the lower high, it really powered down. Okay, capitulation there. We started to hold, and coming into the US session, the start of the US session, another sell-off into that zone. Now, this is a lower high. It's just whether this area can hold or not. Okay, 106.70. If it keeps grinding down, I'll be looking for more of, maybe retesting there, and then we're going to work our way back down, which should be good. Good maybe for petrol prices. I guess all the petrol companies are not going to like that, and they'd be really reluctant to drop fuel prices. But if it starts to do this kind of action, we could get a grind down and more of a squeeze on a lot of longs. Okay, so the longs are really looking for, longer term longs. You can see that the market's pressed up. It's held this level, which is a key level. It's expanded higher. We've held this 116 level. Then we've got back up 129.30. So your longer term longs that are positioned longs will be looking at this as a lower high. Okay, we're at this lower high. This needs to hold for them. If it doesn't hold, you probably find there's going to be a squeeze on anyone that's been building up a bigger position off 93, off 91, then 80. So sort of that zone through there. If it can hold, then we're going to you'd be looking for that higher low to work off. But to me, that looks like it's going to have to do a lot of work before it starts to hold up off there again. Copper is working. It flushed through that level and it started to hold again. So that's 154. Okay, 10,054, however you want to look at it. I think it's actually 1.0054 on the futures market. That's the way they look at it. So that zone through there is potentially holding. You've got a higher low here, see if it can work its way up off that level, continue to work its way up. But I think it needs to flush into that level. It needs to just hold another couple of flushes before it's going to work up off that level. So if we get, just move a few things here from a mouse, if we get this kind of action, then I think that could lead to a good move up. But for now, it's really just we're flattening out on the MAs. There's no reason why it can't roll back down again and this be a lower high and really start to take out these lows through here and trade into this low at around, was it 0.9802 or 9802, this support zone through here. But that's what I'm sort of looking for. I would be looking for a flush into that level, start to hold and see if it can kick up again. Bitcoin, now Bitcoin and Ethereum, they moved down at the start of the Asian market session, I think, about midday yesterday, Sydney time, moved down and it really didn't make up any ground, didn't make any those lost ground in the US session. So it seems to be running out. To me, it's looking like it's running out of a bit of enthusiasm, okay, on a lot of these cryptos. Yeah, it spiked up, but there were some sellers. It didn't go anywhere, so that any of these buyers are quick to jump back out again. So they're not getting supported again on dips. All right, so that's just what I'm seeing anyway. So you're seeing this highs up here. You can see that was failed. It's failed all the way back down with another lower high coming to play. So there is an opportunity this goes all the way back down to 37,450 and breaks it. That lower high could easily lead to a break of 37,450, and then we're starting to look back at these lows at 34 and even lower than that. Right. So Bitcoin, if you're holding Bitcoin, especially with margin positions, I think it stays not it stays as numbers, but it's had its euphoric time. I don't think Bitcoin back to 100,000, which a lot of people are spruiking, to me it's a load of rubbish. I think it's seeing the highs have been put in place. Maybe if that euphoric nature, trading nature has come out, then you expect it to start to grind back down again and really start to, just because it can't find any love here around 39,000. Now, it could be wrong, could easily press up. So if it's going to press up, I'd looking for that retest of 39,500 and see if we can grind back up to this level, 41,250. But if it's not going to do that, we're probably going to start to see a bit more of an unwind. Anyone that's been buying through here, a bit of an unwind and a move back down to 37,450. Now Ethereum is much the same. You can see this zone through here, 2609, was struggling. It popped up, got up to here, 27,448, failed. It failed through that level, retested in 25.57, did react up and off that level, but it couldn't really get anywhere. It couldn't find enough buyers to see it push back up, especially when the US markets were bouncing. Okay, so the US markets, they sold down, they bounced off their lows into the close. Your cryptocurrencies couldn't go with it. Okay, couldn't find any love. So just couldn't find enough buying enthusiasm to drive it back up again. All right, so that's it for me. We'll leave it there. Now we're coming to the weekend. So with the ASX, I would expect that, we may just chop around between those two levels, but I wouldn't expect too much love coming into the weekend. Look, it could do. It's done it before. Lately the markets have been surprising. If you expect it to go down because of what happened in the US, it pops back up. So it seems to be we're leading the action over in the US. Just when they had their big rally, we'd already done a lot of the rally during the day. Okay, and before that, we dropped off. The US dropped off that night. So it seems to be we're leading them as opposed to following them. Okay, so just be wary that the market could get choppy into the weekend. I wouldn't expect too much, but it could pop. It could easily pop to 71, 72. So if you're trading intraday, I think for me is a better idea. I think intraday is leading to some good little moves, but I'm not willing to hold risk overnight. Okay, and into the share market, I'm not willing to dive into too many shares just at this stage. I don't think the ASX has proven itself enough. All right, if we just go to, let's just look at a bigger time frame, 4-hourly chart. I'll clear that up. You can see there's still, to me, whoops, just get that a bit clearer. There's levels up here. That's a major double top, and that's a major failure up here. That flushed through this level and failed. And then we've got this zone through here, which could be holding the action down. So there's no reason why you've got all these kind of levels through here, why we can't sell off. This could be a lower high, and we start to grind our way down. We could, pop up and then start to head lower over the longer term anyway. So to me, I'm more weighted to the downside, maybe just natural bear, but I wouldn't be jumping into too much risk just at this time. There is a little minor level we're potentially holding through there. So there is, there's an argument for it going back up again. This could be a flush. We're holding this inside level, high and low, and we start to work our way back up. Or, maybe something like this. We're going to hold the level like that, and then we head higher, or we're going to roll over. So there's double top here, double bottom there. So we'll just have to wait and see. So I don't think it's worth holding risk over the weekend just yet. I don't think we're out of the woods. Inflation is still a concern. Ukraine's still a concern. We'll just see how that plays out. All right, guys, thanks for joining me, and have a great weekend. Stay safe, and we'll speak to you soon.